Tachid, Adonai roi lo echsar. Vinodeh sheyarbitzeni al mei menuchot, Yenahaleni nafshi yeshovev. Yancheni v'maglei tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech begeit sama velo irara ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni. Taroch levanai shulchanei etzorai. Dishanta v'Hashem en roshi. Kosi rivaya. Ach tov achesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. Veshavti beveit Adonai leorech yamim. A Psalm of David. Adonai, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside the still waters, and restores my soul. Guides me on the right path, for that is God's nature. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and loving kindness shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai, the house of the Lord, forever. That's from the Psalms. Also in the Psalms we read, tell us, God, what our term is. Tell us the measure of our days. Were we to know, we would know then certainly how fleeting life is, how quickly we gray. You have made our life just handbreadths long. Its span is as nothing in your sight. No one endures any longer than a breath. We walk about as mere shadow. Mere futility is our hustle and bustle. Amassing treasure and not knowing who will gather in. What then can we depend on, God? We shall depend on you. In you lies our hope. And the Psalms are also the source of this line, a pillar of Jewish faith and tradition. God is close to the brokenhearted and helps those crushed in spirit. Well, if that's the case, then God, this family, and this community need you now. For we, are most certainly heartbroken and crushed as we are forced to say goodbye today to our beloved son, brother, grandson, fiancé, and friend, Allan, a really, really great guy, who has been taken away far too young, taken away in his prime or quite possibly well before his prime. Which makes this, without question, a tragedy, a terrible loss. Because as good as our corner of the world has been for having had Allan in it, and there is no doubt he has brought energy, life, and passion to our corner of the world, we are now worse off for having to say goodbye to him far too soon. Allan passed away suddenly and unexpectedly last Friday on a vacation trip to Mexico. He was just 34. He will be deeply missed by his mother, Ina Granovsky, his sister, Emily Flume, and brother-in-law, Ari Flume, his grandparents, Alexander and Bella Granovsky, his fiancée, Gina Zaborowski, his cousins, his friends, and really anyone who had the pleasure of knowing him or crossing paths with him throughout his life. My name is Rabbi Matthew Leibel, one of the rabbis here at Congregation Shared Zedek, and I'm privileged to say I was one of the people who had the opportunity to cross paths with Allan. And we will miss him because Allan was a man with a big personality, much like his big physique. Passionate, devoted, loyal. He may not have trusted many people, but those he trusted, he was by their side no matter what. Easily and instantly likable, charming, funny, with a great, trademark, unmistakable smile. It's no surprise that throughout his life, he was well liked by the ladies. The perfect balance of a tough, strong guy on the outside and a sensitive, soft soul on the inside. Strong-willed. He knew what he believed in. He always believed he was right. He always believed in himself. A nonconformist. He never wanted to fit into other people's expectations. A bit of a troublemaker who didn't mind being the life of the party among family or friends, but in other situations really didn't want the spotlight. Allan loved his family deeply, sharing a special bond with his younger sister Emily, whom he protected, always close by on the playground at school, just in case. His mother, Ina. This is a guy who legally changed his last name from Gekht to Granovsky just a few years ago to honor his mom, adopting her maiden name because there were no other male Granovskys in their family, and he wanted that name to live on. We're talking about a guy who had a thirst for knowledge, at times an unquenchable thirst for knowledge, who loved to read and feed what can really only be called an obsessive personality. Because when Allan became interested in a topic, no matter what, he totally immersed himself in it. Hours of research, finding out everything he could. He had a passion for learning. From history to Mexican drug cartels to life on Mars and all sorts of conspiracy theories. When Allan got his hooks in something, he dove in head first. And not only did he love to learn, he loved to share that knowledge. He'd talk your ear off about his latest obsession, whether you wanted to hear it or not. Like the time he visited Israel on a birthright trip after his second year of university. He became so infatuated with Israeli culture, Israeli people, and Israeli life that when he returned to Winnipeg, all he could talk about to his parents, to his sister, to his friends was that he had to move to Israel right away. They know how to live, Allan would say. Allan grew up in the North End with his dad, Sam, Sasha Gekht, Zichrono Livracha, his mom and his sister. He attended Talmud Torah and Joseph Walensky Collegiate, then finished high school at the U of W Collegiate. Was he a disruptive student? Sure. Ina and Sam had their fair share of uncomfortable parent-teacher conferences. But the problem was, Allan was always ahead of the curve. He was smart. He was well-read. And he wasn't shy about disagreeing with teachers, even if it cost him repeated trips out of the class. If he were disruptive, it's because he was bored. He wanted to be challenged and was never afraid to challenge authority. Allan kept people on their toes. And we can always use more people like that in our lives, whether we admit it or not. He showed tremendous talent and promise in pursuits outside the classroom, like sports. He was an avid downhill skier, which was a source of bonding with his late father. Allan learned on local hills, like Assissippi and Spring Hill, and enjoyed countless family trips west to BC, Alberta, and Montana. Ski trips were always a highlight for Allan. He tried his hand at hockey, but he really didn't want to skate. He wanted to be a goalie, so that was short-lived. And he was a very strong swimmer, taking lessons at Seven Oaks, completing all the levels through life-saving. His instructors, in fact, encouraged him to pursue competitive swimming. But Allan turned them down, telling his mom, "I'm already the best at swimming. What do I need to compete for?" Allan really wasn't competitive. He didn't care about being the best, but he did want to be the first. And he excelled in music, starting with piano lessons. After all, he's Russian, so you have to learn piano. And he stood out as a strong technical player. He loved music with energy, jazz, reflective of his personality. However, after a few years, he wanted to switch from piano to drums. That led to a fight with his parents, or better yet, a negotiation. Ina will tell you everything was a case with Allan. Not surprisingly, he won that negotiation and switched to drums, where he again flourished. Now, this is where I can actually share a personal story, because I knew Allan just a little bit, not a lot. He was a year ahead of me in school at JW. And I know for a long time he's had this shaved head and his huge, impressive, muscular build, but the Allan Gekht I remember was the grade 8, grade 9 version of Allan Gekht, causing trouble, frustrating teachers, cracking lots of jokes, making people laugh, especially kids like me who were way less cool than he was. I remember him with spiky hair, baggy jeans, and a chain linked to his wallet. It was the 90s. He was kind of the definition of cool. He didn't care what anybody thought. This one year, we had this rock band program at school. It was an after-school program. Some friends and I were in the band. I was playing keyboards, and Allan was our drummer. I remember we were doing a school concert. We learned 3 songs. Joy to the World by the Three Dog Night, The Other Side by Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Rearranged by Limp Bizkit. Again, Allan was the drummer. But the way I remember it, Allan missed every single practice. He was never there for rehearsal. And then, on the day of the show, he showed up. He played the part perfectly, with his characteristic charm, flair, energy, and showmanship. For me, that's Allan Gekht. After high school, Allan went to the University of Manitoba, where he graduated with a BA in criminology and psychology. He flirted with the idea of law school, even taking and scoring well on the LSAT. But instead, at 25, he moved to Toronto along with a girlfriend at the time who'd gotten into a program at Ryerson. And so he moved and enrolled in a program at George Brown College, studying international business with a focus on logistics. He lived in Toronto for 4 years, where he not only graduated from George Brown, but also established himself as a successful and highly sought-after personal trainer before returning to Winnipeg 5 years ago. Back in Winnipeg, he continued to work as a trainer, first at Good Life. But then, when that path felt too commercial, too dishonest, and too much like he had to compromise his integrity and his morals, Allan struck out on his own, became a freelance personal trainer with a focus on clients interested in bodybuilding. He would go to them. They would call on him. And he would follow them to various gyms around the city, continuing to grow his reputation. In many ways, as we mentioned, Allan thrived on being not what you'd expect. In fact, even from the beginning, even from his birth, he wasn't born in Winnipeg, after all. He was actually born in San Francisco, where his parents lived for a few years before returning home. Just another place, another moment where Allan defies expectations. The last time I saw him was a couple of years ago at Emily and Ari's wedding. I can picture him laughing, having a few drinks outside, telling stories, giving off so much positive energy. I can picture him walking his mom down the aisle that day. And I, like all of you in this room, will miss him, unable to enjoy more moments like that again. Speaking of Emily, it's now my honor to call her up to the bema, Allan's sister, who can share more reflections on her older brother and the impact he's had on her life and so many other lives. Emily.
Thanks, Matthew. I'd like to thank all of you for being here today to honor my brother. The morning after, and the days that followed, I began to write down thoughts and memories I had of him as they came to me. Allan never needed an introduction. He never won any awards or prizes, but when he walked into a room, everyone knew his name. His exterior was tough, larger than life and covered with tattoos. Yet what most remember him by is his charm and his kindness. Allan was loved by all that knew him. His smile could light up any room, even with the little chips it acquired throughout the years. He always stood strong and proud for what he felt was right and did without fear. He was a survivor, always overcoming a challenging time and looking back as if it was a minor bump in the road. He lived his life the only way he knew how, never taking orders from anyone, not parents, not teachers, not from any bosses, and never from authorities. Whether people knew him well or not, it was certain they respected him. Nobody ever commanded more respect than Allan. But the strength my brother portrayed on the outside was his shield, an armor he had built through the years, I believe, to hide the struggles he faced on the inside. Many friends here today are friends from his past. He trusted few people and isolated himself to an extent, but his life was incredibly fulfilling. He always valued time with his family and those he loved, and always made you feel that when you were in his presence. He always wanted to be a master of something. He was an incredible piano player, drummer, personal trainer, dog trainer, and cook. He was both an intellect and a clown. He had the ability to read a book or an article and retain every word. He read about religion, history. He could even explain Bitcoin in lengthy detail. And within the same breath, he would be speaking in made-up words, calling you made-up names, and prancing around almost childlike. He was a loving son, a loving grandson, a caring partner, a devoted dog father, and a loyal friend. My mom was my brother's champion. He was impossible, even in death challenging her, making her fly to Mexico and negotiate endlessly to expedite his homecoming. Yet, no matter how much trouble he got into, or how many mistakes he made, my mom stuck by him, supporting him and guiding him. He loved her more than anything, and he always felt blessed to have her in his life. Her heart is broken. It will forever be missing pieces of it. But even though you are not here, she feels your presence with her always, standing beside her, hand on shoulder, saying, "Mama, please don't worry," with that ever-present sparkle in your eyes. His gentle hugs, his loving kisses are ingrained in her mind for eternity, and his smile and quiet laughter will be seen and heard in any room filled with family and close friends. Allan introduced me to everything I thought and still think is cool to this day, like 90s rap music and Italian mob movies. And his life was somewhat influenced by those as well. I remember always being so excited when he would have to drive me somewhere, or when he would show up at the same house party as me, because I thought I got exponentially cooler having a big brother like him and being known as his baby sister. He also had the prettiest, kindest, coolest girlfriends, some who are here today, who became like temporary sisters for me to look up to and idolize throughout the relationship and even beyond. Even though he never was keen on big social events, he always made it to family dinners, usually 1 hour late at least, to ensure the dinner conversation revolved only around him once he made it. And he always made it to milestones, even though they made him feel awkward, like my graduation, grandparents' birthdays, and our wedding, putting on a big smile, posing for pictures, which he hated doing, and being the hilarious and charming Allan we all know and loved. He was my protector my whole life. We were close, and yet never close enough for me. Ever since I can remember, I've always known that if anyone ever gave me a hard time or put me in danger, he was just one quick call away. I know he will continue to watch over me through life, protecting me from harm. The only thing he could never prepare or protect me for is the pain I feel, and we all feel, without him. As Matt said, Allan touched many people's hearts. One of those hearts was Gina, his beautiful, strong, wise beyond her years fiance. Al spent his final years and his final days with the love of his life, soaking up the sun, swimming in the ocean, eating lobster, and drinking only high-end tequila shots in paradise. One of his last Instagram posts was even titled, "Love and Life." And he really was. Gina, I know you will remember him forever and continue to raise Dubsy, your beloved dog, in a way that makes him proud. I have to tell you guys a story because I haven't told everyone. The morning after, I was woken up by loud noises. I couldn't quite make out what it was. I frantically looked out every window in our house to try and pinpoint the origin of this shrieking noise, but nothing was there. It got louder and louder. Finally, I slowly opened the blinds at our front window, and I discovered a group of crows perched on the highest tree. As soon as I did that, they stopped cawing, and they just sat there calmly. As I had not seen or heard birds for a very long time, I was convinced they were there to send me a message. I immediately started researching, as Allan would, the meaning, and was comforted to learn they are the messenger that guides souls from the realm of the living into the afterlife. That when they appear after someone has passed, it is a spiritual blessing and a symbol, confirming the rebirth of a loved one, shedding from the old and awakening in the new. I can't believe I will never get to hug him again, or try to measure his bicep circumference with both hands. I can't believe we will never again get to hear him rant about the injustices of society, politics, police, or taxes. But I do believe he's at peace, resting, finally free with his best friend, his beloved first dog, Capone, alongside him. We want to thank you all for your support through this most difficult time. The outpour of messages and calls and everything has been truly overwhelming. I don't think my brother could have ever imagined, even in his wildest dreams, how much he influenced every single person he was in contact with and how many hearts he touched. Al, we can't bring you back, no matter how much we wish we could. We can only let you live on through us. through our memories of times we shared, how you made us laugh and what you taught us. We can only promise to remember you when we eat dim sum at Kumkun or steak and lobster at the Keg, when we drag ourselves to the Rady or Good Life for a pumpski. We promise to honor you by being kind to all those we meet as you were, because you never knew what people were going through or where they'd been. We promise to always put our families first, protect our sisters, respect our mothers, and treat our friends like brothers. We promise to learn as much as we can about all that we can, love as hard as we can, and never forget to enjoy and savor the good things in life as you did. You will live on in our hearts forever. I love you all.
Thank you, Emily. Just an unbelievable and courageous speech. In a moment, we'll stand for the El Malei Rachamim, the Jewish memorial prayer, and we'll appeal to God on Allan's behalf using his Hebrew name, which was Binyamin, tied to his middle name, Benjamin. Binyamin, son of Shmuel and Elisheva. In the Torah, Binyamin, or Benjamin, was the youngest of 12 sons of the patriarch Jacob, and therefore also one of the names of the 12 tribes. At the end of the book of Genesis, of Breshit, Jacob is on his deathbed, and he gives each of his sons a special blessing. For Benjamin, what he says is very interesting. He says, Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, in the morning devouring the prey, in the evening still dividing the spoil. Doesn't exactly sound like a blessing, does it? But on closer inspection, there's a lot we can learn, just like with Allan. Always active in the morning and the evening, never stopping. Someone with so much energy. Someone who causes trouble, who can't sit still. Someone who potentially drums on his desk in class while teachers are trying to teach. Or better put, someone who is always hungry. So hungry he's ravenous. Always wanting to learn, an insatiable appetite. One interpretation I found of this particular Benjamin blessing is that Benjamin is hungry for the divine sparks in all of existence. So, like a ravenous wolf, Benjamin recognizes his mission is to passionately seek out the divine energy embedded in matter, to devour it, to consume it, and to elevate it. And finally, there's the image of the wolf, the animal, because of this blessing, long associated with Benjamin and the tribe of Benjamin. When you think of a wolf, you may think of danger, fierceness. But the wolf is also a symbol of guardianship, loyalty, and spirit. Sharp intelligence, strong instincts, an appetite for freedom. The wolf is not afraid to break from the pack, to be a lone wolf. Is that not fitting for Allan? The truth is, the wolf-like qualities can make or break Benjamin. And the same was true of our beloved Allan. Just as we read in our opening psalm, losing Allan reminds us of the fragility of life. It forces us to confront that fear. But it also reminds us how lucky we are to be alive, to have people in our lives who love us and care about us and for whom we feel the same. And it reminds us not to take our opportunities for granted. Because though we wish we knew, we do not know the length of our days. We never will. We only have to live each one to the fullest, just as Allan did. Please rise for the El Malei Rachamim prayer. El Malei Rachamim shochein b'mromim Hametzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei ha-shechina B'malot kedoshim uteorim Kezohar arakia mazhirim En nishmat Binyamin ben Shmuel v'Elisheva She'alach le'olamo Began eden de menuchato Anabal harachamim Hastireu beseter knafecha leolamim Utzeror bitzeror achaim enishmato Adonai hu nachalato V'yanuach v'shalom amishkavo v'nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Allan, Benjamin, Gekht Granovsky, Binyamin, son of Shmuel and Elisheva, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. Earlier this morning, in accordance with Allan's family's wishes, we had a private burial ceremony, which we recited psalms, a short hesped, a short eulogy in Allan's honor, and recited both the El Malei Rachamim prayer and the mourner's Kaddish, and then took turns completing the ritual of burying Allan, accompanying him to his final resting place as a family and community. Today's service has been about respect for Allan. The highest form of respect we can show someone in the Jewish tradition is what we've done today. And now our thoughts shift, as we will always remember Allan, but now we turn to consoling his family, his loved ones. Ina, Emily, Ari, Gina, Alexander and Bella, cousins, friends. In the spirit of comforting those who mourn and joining our hearts together with theirs, the family will be sitting Shiva tomorrow night only at Emily and Ari's home, 888 Campbell Street, beginning at 7 o'clock. That's tomorrow night, 888 Campbell Street, beginning at 7. In a moment, we'll ask the family to leave and everyone to join us in the auditorium for a meal of consolation as our consoling begins. To the family, we offer these final words of our tradition. Hamakom yinachem etchem b'toch sha'ar avei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May you be comforted and consoled. May God comfort and console you among all those who mourn and who have ever mourned in our community and our people Israel. Thank you to everyone for coming.